What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to the Mostly Occasion Show. I'm your host, Brandon Wenerd, the publisher of BroBible.com. I have an awesome show today. I have a conversation with the legendary actor Frankie Muniz from Malcolm in the Middle, Agent Cody Banks. You know him. Every millennial knows it. I don't know if you know this or not, but Frankie is actually a NASCAR driver. He's loved cars and automobile racing for years, practically his entire career. And he's raced a lot professionally. I had this crazy experience in Vegas back in November 2024 when I was at the F1 race. We did a hot lap around the track of this awesome Mustang Darkhorse. I get in the car and this driver's he's ready to go, and he's like, "Hey, have you ever been on a track before?" And I'm like, I did a hot lap once. It was great. He's like, "Oh yeah, I drive NASCAR." I was like, "Oh, what's your name?" "Frankie Muniz." And I lost it. I was like, "What? Frankie Muniz? Malcolm in the Middle? Of course."
Great to meet you, man. Dude, let's go, Frankie. Oh my gosh. Dude. Yeah. Hell yeah, man.
I'm a millennial. I grew up watching Malcolm in the Middle, and I'm super stoked because there's like a reboot coming out here soon and the whole 9 yards. But anyway, I got to chat a little bit with Frankie on his love of cars, how he got into racing, what his schedule looks like this upcoming season, and everything that he kind of has going on. So it's really, really fun to learn Frankie's origin story and deep love of racing. The guy gets to live out his dream of being a race car driver. You know how cool that is? That's like one of those things that people dream of that they don't actually ever chase. But Frankie, man, whenever he realized that he could go for it, he went for it. And that is just so sick to me. So today's Mostly Occasionally show is a conversation with the legendary Frankie Muniz. Thanks so much for watching. And if you like the show, please hit the subscribe button. Peace. Frankie, thank you so much for taking the time, man.
No, thank you for wanting to chat with me. I know you got to go on a hot lap ride with me in Vegas, right?
We had a lot. It was, yes, it was a lot of fun. I sure did.
It was awesome.
Dude, what was it? So, I know this is the second year that you've done hot laps on that circuit. What was this year's go around like?
Oh man, I know I was excited. Like when they asked me to do it again, they're like, "Do you mind coming to?" I'm like, "You don't have to ask. Like I will be there, no matter what, because it's just such a cool weekend in general, right?" So never mind the fact that I get to do a really fun thing and drive a dark horse at its limit, on the Vegas Strip racetrack, the Formula One track. It's an unbelievable experience, and I love kind of getting to see the joy on people's faces when they get a ride, right? You know what I mean? It's like it's what I do. So when I'm doing it, I'm just kind of focused, and I don't think about the joy element or the fun element. I do when I'm doing something like that. I'm saying when I'm racing cars, typically, like you're so focused. So it's fun to kind of like get to talk and see the people's reactions. There's guys who get in or people who get in and they try to act all tough. They're like, "Oh, this isn't that fast." And by the end, they're like gripping the seat, like, "Oh, slow down." So I enjoy that aspect of it a ton.
Yeah, you get like reactions and because also that unlike race car drivers and motorsports professionals, most of us haven't been at those speeds like ever in a car,
Yeah. Well, I think that's a fun thing. I always usually ask, what's the fastest you've ever gone? And most people say like 90, 95. I'm like, "Oh, well, we're going to beat that." You know what I mean? Like, here we go. Yeah. Ready? It is a weird thought, right? Because I'm not saying this to scare you at all, because you've done it now, right?
Yeah.
But it's a weird thought for me sometimes that I go, these people are getting in my car. They don't know me, but they trust me, because they were told to trust me, So yeah. It's a weird, not pressure, because like I'm driving at even when we did the lap, probably 7, 8 tenths of the limit. You know what I mean? Yep. That's what they tell us. Obviously, we don't want to, hurt anybody or put F1 or anybody in a bad situation. And but I know that I can make it feel as crazy as I can control kind of jerking the car around in the corners to make it feel maybe even than it is. I don't know. It's just fun. I love it. So this is the second time they asked me to do it. I'm hoping, this coming year, I know they've done the hot laps at I think 6 events this year, 5 or 6 events this year, but I'm hoping they ask me to do more of it because it's just so much fun.
So I had the opportunity. I mean, I had my experience. I was blown. What I've have still to this day think is really funny is that I had no idea you were going to be my driver. And like at all, like I had, I don't know where I missed that in the memo. So when you got in the car and you're like, oh yeah, I drive, because I was really, really lucky or fortunate enough a couple years ago to do a hot lap with Dale Jr. on the Daytona track. And, wonderful experience. He obviously is a tremendous driver. We mentioned that and you were like, oh yeah, I drive NASCAR. And I was like, oh yeah, who are you?
Well, I think that's, I never expect anybody to recognize me. Right. And there's people who get in and they have no idea that I used to be on TV. Right. But there's people who only know me from being on TV and have no idea that I'm a race car driver. And I think that's a weirder element for them. They're like, why is Malcolm driving this car right now? You know what I mean? Like,
100%.
Why?
Well, it's also like I'm of the perfect age I think we're the same. I'm 39. I'm of the perfect age to remember, Malcolm and your body of work, as an actor, back in the day, at its cultural pinnacle. So there's I get why for me it's you have to suspend reality a little bit,
Yeah. No, I know I definitely get interesting reactions both ways. I get the people who get in and they go, what do you do? What do you race? And they just have no idea, right? And I go, oh, I race NASCAR. Oh, that's cool. They have no idea I was an actor, right? Maybe they get out and they show the video to someone and they go, that's Frankie Muniz from Malcolm Middle, which I think is a fun element too. But I do like the fact that that's probably one of my favorite things is the people's initial reaction when they get in with me. You know what I mean? Yeah. Usually, I will say this: a lot of people get in and they're so unbelievably nervous, just sitting in the seat, they're shaking. That I don't even think they look over. They don't even. You know what I mean? They're just petrified, right? So
right on, just eyes on in front of them. Yep.
Yeah, I always try to say something like this. I go, let me know if you're uncomfortable. Let me know if I'm going too fast. I want them to have a good time. I don't want to scare them. You know what I mean? Yeah. I want them to have a good experience. So I try to be accommodating.
That rocks. I had an opportunity to talk to Shaun White the week after F1, and he was telling me about what it was like to be a second time rider of yours, running it back. And he was like,
well, here's what's so funny about Shaun White. So we get there not this season, but last year, right? The first time that they were doing the F1 race there, and we're sitting in this they have us over by the Aria Hotel. We're waiting in the cars and we were going to go on the track from there. And they go, you'll get to do one lap by yourself just so you can see where you're going, just so you understand it. And then you'll pick up the first passenger. So we get on the track, but we literally go straight to the line and Shaun White gets in my car. And I'm like, I'm not going to lie, bro. I have no idea where I'm going. Just so you know, we're seeing it for the first time together. So I don't know at the end of this straightaway if I'm going right or left, and that's pretty scary. I'm just gonna say that's pretty scary. So he rode with me the first time, and I'm trying to go fast, but at the same time I'm I literally have no idea where I'm going. So I was so happy he got to go in my car again this year because I knew where I was going, and I felt like I got to give him a better ride. Although I would say the first ride was pretty scary because I missed a few corners, but we lived.
I mean, he's been doing McTwist 1080 since he was 7 years old. So I'm sure he was cool with it.
I'll say this. He's the cool, he's such an amazing guy, super nice. He is screaming, just having the time of his life. And I love the fact that, someone who I look up to and all the amazing things he's done in, so many, different genres of sport and the fact that he can get a thrill out of it is pretty cool because like he does what I think are the most thrill seeking things you could do. You know what I mean?
Yeah. You're one of a kind. I mean, you're two of a kind, really. Like automotive, like hucking it on a snowboard, like at the level that he was able to achieve in his career is insane. And also manning, driving at that caliber and level that you've been able to build, Frankie, like is, it's taken you years to get to this point,
Yeah. I mean, I'm trying hard. I'm putting in as much effort as I possibly can, especially going into this season, right? This last year was a little weird because I didn't really know what I was going to be doing. I was jumping around a bunch of different teams, different series, but knowing that I'm full-time in the truck series, like I've got I've never been more motivated. I'm doing everything I can to prepare because I feel like with racing, not to say that this is it, right? But you have to go out there and perform when you have the opportunity. You have to. So I don't want to look back at this year and go, I could have prepared more. I could have put a little more time in the gym. I could have spent more time with my team. So I'm giving it my all this year and we'll see how it goes. But yeah, my racing background is a little interesting because I started really late. I think going to be the oldest rookie in the truck series in history this year, right? I don't know if that's a guess, but most of the kids I'm racing 18, 19 years old. I'm 39 this year. But I started when I was 18 doing the pro celebrity race in Long Beach. I won that. I got like on a whim, a pro team just approached me. Or like, hey, come and do a test. It'll be fun. Like not really thinking of it becoming a career, just to go and do it. I did the test. I was really quick. So they signed me to a 2-year development deal. So I went from like never racing, winning the pro celebrity race in Long Beach to a month later, my first race was in Formula BMW. I was racing against Daniel Ricciardo, Sebastian Vettel, James Hinchcliffe, all these like IndyCar, future winners. And I didn't even know the rules, so I kind of threw myself off the deep end then and had to quickly, learn. I did Formula BMW 2006, and then for 3 years, I did the Champ Car Atlantic Championship with the intention of going into Champ Car, which became IndyCar, merged with IndyCar in 2010. I had an IndyCar ride for 2010, got really badly hurt, broke my back, pins in my hand, the whole nine. So I missed the 2010 season. So from that moment on until literally Daytona 2023, I didn't race anything. So it seems like I've been racing for 20 years, but really like I raced for 4 years and then did nothing for 14 years. And then was like, I'm going NASCAR racing and showed up at Daytona. And so even this journey in the stock car world, I'm still way behind when it comes to experience. Right. So yeah.
What inspired you to get, I mean, 14 years of not doing something that you were really passionate about. And I understand after an injury being shaken up. But what inspired you to kind of get back into it?
Well, the injury for that first year of like healing, that hindered me, but like it wasn't the reason why I didn't go back. I didn't go like, oh, I don't want to get hurt again. That's never crossed my mind. I just started doing other things, right? Like life just took over. I joined a band. I toured with a band for 4 years. I started an olive oil company with my wife. Like just got busy doing other things, right?
Just life stuff. Yeah.
And you always think like, oh, there's still time. There's still time. There's still time. And then all of a sudden you go like, holy shit, I'm the oldest I've ever been right now. You know what I mean? Like, no, right now. And I'm not getting any younger. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like I've been very fortunate to get to do a lot of different things in my life and have success in kind of different avenues. But I've always felt like there was unfinished business in the racing world. And as dumb as it sounds, like my son was born and I was holding him in the hospital. And I remember going like, who is my son going to grow up thinking that who his dad is? Because like everything I had done was in my past. I wasn't currently doing anything at the time. And I really wanted him to grow up with him seeing me working really hard towards a goal and the ups and downs that come along with it. Right. I wanted him to see me passionate about something and not just like, yeah, daddy, yeah, we have this nice house, but why do we have it? I don't know. I used to do this stuff back in the day. You know what I mean? Like I wanted to see me currently striving for something. So that was a little bit of the motivation, of going like, hey, if I'm going to do this, I need to do it, but I want to go NASCAR driving. I know that that's different than what I used to do and a completely different. I compare it to saying like Olympic diving and Olympic swimming are the same. They're not, right?
Yeah.
Racing open wheel cars and racing NASCAR are completely different. But I wanted to give it a try, and I'm so glad I did. It actually made me mad because I wish I did it 20 years ago. I wish I started in stock cars because I just love it. Granted, here I am, I'm working real hard, but it is. One thing I love about it is it's so hard. It is not easy. You know what I mean? And you're racing against some of the top drivers in the world who have been doing this form of racing their whole lives. But that's part of the motivation. It's like I want to compete against them. I want to beat them. And I truly think that I can. And I'm ready to show that this year.
How do they look at you as the person that's coming in as like, because at the team level and in motorsports, it's a smaller world than I think a lot of people really think. And it's people that really grew up in that environment. And, is there like some, I don't know what I would call it. Like, are people like, who's this guy, that's coming in, like, type thing?
There's a little bit of both, in the sense that when I went into ARCA in 2023, like showed up to Daytona, I'll be honest, I was petrified out of my mind. I got there and I was like, why did I do this? Like, why did I sign up for this? I don't even know if I can do it. And, I go out for the first practice session, and I was, of the 40 cars, I was first. I was P1, right? Yeah, nice. And it was like, hell yeah, I can do this. Like, let's go, right? So like, immediately, I think everybody thought it was not a publicity thing. Like, oh, let him come in. He'll be in the back. He'll be slow, whatever it may be. And I immediately proved that I belonged in that series. Yeah. But every step you take up, right? So you go from ARCA to, I did some Xfinity races this year, the truck races and all that. Like, maybe people assume it's not for real until you start beating them, right? So like, you don't have to. That's my goal, right? I want to beat everybody on the track. And as soon as you're racing with them, as soon as you're beating them, they can't look at you just as like this actor who's lucky to be there or whatever it may be, or an outsider. You're there, you belong. So that's one thing I really like about racing is it's not subjective. Yeah. You either can do it and you're fast, or you can't and you're not. You know what I mean? Like it's not someone's opinion. It's literally there's an order, you know what I mean? And
100%. And it's a team sport too. Like, if you have great people behind you, it helps so much. It's a team sport. That's it.
That's one thing I'm really excited about this year. My team, Rayon Brothers Racing, they've always kind of been a smaller team. But Josh, the owner, and Amir and everybody at the team is so passionate about becoming the best they can possibly be and stepping up the game. So they made a lot of changes in the offseason to like get to that next level. They're also now a full Ford backed team, like a manufacturer team. So like we're going to get a lot of help from Ford, which they never had in the past. So I'm just excited to show what we can do, right? Yeah. As a team and with our passion. And, like I said, the only way, you earn the respect is by going out there and doing it. So like, we've been talking about it now all off season. We've been making the changes, but we got to show up to Daytona. We got to show up to Atlanta in those first couple of races and show the improvement that we've made. Obviously I'm still going to be a rookie this year. I've done 3 or 4 truck races this year. But most of the tracks I'm going to for the first time. Right. Yeah. But like I said, I'm doing everything I can in the simulator, at Ford, here at home, watching tape, doing everything I can. So I show up, and I don't want to show up with the mindset, which I think I did, just to be honest, I think I did a little bit this year. I showed up going like, I'm here to learn. I'm here to figure things out. I've never done a pit stop. And when you go with that mindset, you take a little bit of a step back of like, it's okay to be 30th. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
No. I need to go back to where I was when I was racing in ARCA, where I was showing up thinking like, I can win this race. Like I can beat these guys because you drive with a different, a different level of aggressiveness, and rather than just going like, well, I just want to finish the race. No, I don't care if I crash. I want to beat these dudes. You know what I mean? Like, let's go.
You can't be a half dog. You have to be a full dog.
You gotta get it. Well, when you're racing, if there's 36 guys in the truck series and 35 of them are giving it their all, you can't do it halfway. Like you can't. And that's something that I realized this year, that like maybe I entered the year going like, hey, we'll get in there. We'll kind of feel it out. Nah, I'm mad at myself for that. You know what I mean? And I'm not going to do that this year. 100%.
So how do you feel then, preparing obviously for Truck Series, obviously different vehicle, like, different series. Man, NASCAR fans love those Friday night truck races too. Like they're so great. Like, so how do you
crazy? They're pretty crazy.
They're super crazy. They're great.
Yeah. The reason we went from ARCA, I was going to be in Xfinity full time this year, like in 2024, this past season. And, our plans kind of got messed up a little bit, but I did a few Xfinity races, and, the truth was like, we looked at it and we went, I'm 40 years old, 39 years old. Like I don't have tons of years, right? If we're going to do it, like, let's go. And I looked at the truck races at first and I was like, they're just nuts. Everyone's going for it. It's a giant sprint race and everyone's really close and massive crashes but I'll say this, after doing 3 or 4 Xfinity races this year and then trying trucks for the first time, like I love the trucks. I feel like it suits my driving style, my racing style. And they're a lot of fun to drive. They poke a really big hole in the air. So like it's easy to get sucked up, but you can manipulate what the other people's trucks around you are doing with your truck. Like it's pretty crazy, like a mind game. And I don't know. I'm looking forward to being there full time this year.
That rocks. So I have just a couple more questions here for you. Like, one is like kind of a racing origin story. For yourself, how did you, your work in your early career was obviously incredibly demanding and very, very busy. And you had presumably a very different childhood than a lot of, the average teenager does. How did you get into racing while balancing, your work on Malcolm and all of that?
To be honest, I never thought I'd be a race car driver, right? My whole life. I remember being a kid, like 5 or 6 years old, and I'd wake up really early in the mornings, and I would turn on the Formula One races and the IndyCar races and NASCAR races. And my family wasn't into racing, so it's not like I went with them, but it was something I was always passionate about. Cars, Matchbox cars, whatever it was, like it's all I cared about. But like I said, it never crossed my mind that I'd be a race car driver. Never. I remember filming Agent Cody Banks. I was 16 years old.
Yeah.
I didn't know how to drive a stick, like couldn't. And I had to drive this Ferrari Dino, and they're like, what do you mean you can't drive a stick? I'm like, I don't know. I just never learned. So they like hired like this guy, and we were out with him for a few days trying to learn how to drive a stick. And like most kids who I'm racing against at 5 years old, they knew how to drive a stick and they were racing, you know what I mean? So I didn't think it was a possibility. It's like almost like saying, I want to be an astronaut. Like, yeah, kids say that, but how do you become an astronaut? I don't even know. Like, where do you go?
Right. Space camp. You go to space camp.
Is that where they pick the next astronaut?
But yeah.
Yeah. So I got asked just to do that. I remember Bryan Cranston, actually, he did the Pro Celebrity Race the year before me, and he knew how into cars I was. And he was like, oh my God, it was the most incredible thing I've ever done in my life. Next year, because you got to be 18 to do it. Like if they ask you to do it, you have to say yes. And I remember going out, they send you out to Willow Springs, and you're out there for a few weekends or, like a week or two, and they have all the instructors there, but it's serious. Like they're really trying to teach you, because even though the cars are slow, I don't want to even call them slow. Back then it was a Toyota Celica.
Right.
It was like a kind of quick car, like on the street. You're driving that at the limit. You know what I mean? Like, and it's still a 2,500 pound car that if you hit a wall, it's going to hurt. You know what I
Right.
mean? So they're trying to teach everyone as much as possible for what they can, and I thought they did a really good job of it. But I remember just thinking it was the most fun thing I've ever done in my life.
Yeah.
Right? Just in a drive, and it's not your car, it's hitting things, and it was so fun. But I never thought I'd win. Right? So when I won that race, that feeling of crossing the finish line was like truly magical. I can't explain the joy that I got from winning that race. And it's kind of like it gets in your blood and you're like, I've got to do this. But even at that point, I didn't think like, how do you, I don't have no idea how you become a race car driver. So I kind of fell into it really.
That's
It's not
so
like,
awesome. We grew up in an era.
like I said, this is what I'm going to do, and I'm going to try to figure it out. Like it just kind of happened, and I went, okay. I remember in 2006 when I did that test with that team, and they signed me to that development deal. I remember calling my entertainment agents. I was still finishing Malcolm. Like we finished filming. I guess it stopped airing in the spring of 2006. We finished filming in 2005. And I remember telling them like, I'm kind of at the height of my career. Like the show's just ending, but like I'm gonna do this racing thing. So don't call me. Like I don't care what it is. And they're like, yeah. And I remember like them calling me in like February, like, hey, you got offered this movie, and it's this big thing. And I was like, no, I'm gonna focus on the racing. I'm gonna focus on the racing. And I remember they just didn't believe me until, maybe the 10th call where I was like, nah, I don't care. I'm not doing it. I'm focusing on this. But I feel like you have to. I mean, this year, I don't know if you heard like the Malcolm's coming back.
Yeah, I did. Yeah.
So, it's something that Bryan Cranston and I and Linwood Boomer, the creator, have been talking about since I think 2015 or 2016. It's almost 10 years that we've been talking about like potentially bringing the show back, and it's finally happening. And I've learned in my life, like I'm super passionate and I give everything my all, right? If I do it, I want to do it 100%. I don't want to do it halfway. But when it came up that like Malcolm was actually going to go this year, it's kind of like, oh, this is amazing. But at the same time, it's like, I can't let it hinder my racing, but I also can't let my racing hinder the reboot. So they've been incredible. And this is the first time I'm telling anybody this. They're completely working around the NASCAR schedule, which I'm so grateful for the producers and Disney for allowing that to happen, right? So like we're filming Sunday through Thursdays with me having Thursdays off to travel, to race on Fridays, to fly back Saturday to film. So it's all going to work out pretty good. And it's only 4 episodes. So it's not like it's a good amount of time. It's like 6 weeks that we're going to film, but it's only 4 races, I think, during that 6 weeks. So it's not going to be too crazy for too long.
Dude, you get to do the full juggle though. That's like,
it's gonna be pretty
busy.
good. It's gonna be, I'm gonna be real busy, but I like to be busy, and like I said, they're both things that I'm extremely passionate about. So it's not like I'm gonna go to the set and be like, oh man, I can't believe I gotta go back to film. And no, it's gonna be great to be back with everybody after 20 years, and I think it's gonna be a fun year for sure.
Man, that's awesome. I mean, it's so cool that you're able to balance, obviously, what you love, career ambitions around what you love, with the other things that you obviously have built a life around, as well. Like super, super awesome. And I mean, it's funny because I get it. Like we also grew up in this cultural time where like, the NASCAR guys that we as like 1985 babies like grew up with, like the Jeff Gordons of the world, Mark Martins, like Dale Earnhardt, of course, like that. It's hard to describe that era of how widespread those legends were everywhere in culture.
I mean, I think you can say Jeff Gordon, Dale Earnhardt, you can say those names to anybody.
Yeah.
I don't care if they've ever even seen a race and they know who you're talking about. You know what I mean? Like it was next level status. And, I'm hoping, obviously NASCAR is still the biggest form of motorsports in America. You know what I mean? I think one thing that maybe has gone away a little bit is that, I don't want to call it rock star status of the drivers, but it's hard these days, right? There aren't the sponsors like there were back then where like, you can picture Dale Earnhardt's car right now. You know the sponsor, you know what it looked like. You can picture Jeff Gordon's car right now. Like, DuPont was on there and it was colorful and red and the 24. Where these days, there's this never-ending cycle of different sponsors and different drivers, and it's kind of not. I don't want to call it hard to follow, because if you follow the sport,
if you follow it, right? It.
Yeah. But maybe from the outside perspective, like, it's harder for people to grasp those drivers as heroes the same way as it used to be. But you also have to keep in mind, like, back then there was so much less to watch.
Yeah.
Right. You couldn't, like, your whole world relied on, like, it becoming Sunday so you can watch the race. Now there's so much content that you're constantly thrown all the time that it would be hard to follow, like, everything. You know what I mean? There's so much. So I don't know. That's one thing that we were trying really hard this year, is like, I wanted people to see my truck and know it was me, because it was consistent. And we'll have that a little bit this year, but we're definitely going to have a lot of different paint schemes. I don't know if you can see this. I don't know. You can't really see it, but, like, these are, like, no one's ever seen these either. Like, this fan made me all these cars. These are
that's awesome.
That I drove, like, over the last 2 years. There's like 40 cars there. I only did 2 seats. You know what I mean? So, like, we're like, but every car is different colors, and it's part of the game. But I would love to have that consistency when people saw my truck, like, they knew it was me, because, like,
yeah.
Anyway,
so
sorry,
that it's an icon, but it's an iconic look. I mean, Dale Earnhardt Jr. I think is Dale Earnhardt, sorry, Senior, is, like, a great example. Like, how many people don't even know what Goodwrench is, and, like, it's the name on the car.
Look, I'm in this sport. I don't even know. I don't know what it is. Like, DuPont. I think I watched a documentary about them. That's the only reason I know kind of what they did. I still don't really know what they do. Kind of sketchy. I don't know. Anyway.
Oh man, that's awesome. So, did you ever, speaking of the Malcolm in the Middle reboot, did you ever drive for Bryan by chance? Did you ever get a chance to do, like, any kind of hot laps or anything like that where you were behind the wheel for him?
I haven't. I never have. That would be awesome. You know what I would
talk to your writers.
And this might sound cheesy, but, like, I definitely need to be driving the Malcolm in the Middle Disney Plus car by the end of the season, before it comes out. Like, 100%. It just makes sense.
Makes sense.
Come on, Disney. Anyway, but I think it'd be so fun to have, like, the whole gang out for a race, right? Like, the whole cast. But yeah, to do something like that, like, put him in a 2-seater, I think it'd be so incredible. You know what I mean? Even with Ford, I don't know if he still is, and maybe we can ask Dan this, but Bryan Cranston for the last couple of years has been the voice of Ford in all the commercials. Like, when you see a Ford commercial, it's Bryan's voice narrating it. And it's kind of funny that, like, I drive for Ford, like, it's this whole kind of weird ancestral, storyline. And I'm like, we have to do something with Ford and get Bryan and me out to do something fun. Like, 'cause I'm always doing hot lap stuff, or driving the super van, or 1600 horsepower I'm always doing fun stuff with Ford, which is,
dude, just for the content alone. I mean, that's, like, amazing,
Yeah. Bryan is, like, so incredibly supportive of, like, anything I've ever done. You know what I mean? And I think, but one thing he does say, he goes, it's hard to watch. It's hard to watch the races, because, like, I'm so nervous for you. You know what I mean? So, like a dad, like a father figure would. I always thought my son, he's about to turn 4, and I was like, he's going to start racing 5. He's going to be doing this and that. I don't even like when he runs, because I'm afraid he's going to fall and scrape his knee. You know what I mean? So, like, never mind, like, being like, yeah, hey, bud, I'm going to put you in this 100-mile-per-hour go-kart at 5 years old. I don't know. I don't know if I could do it.
But I mean, that's how so many NASCAR drivers grow up, though. Like, yeah, which is, like, once you really start, spending a lot of time with NASCAR drivers that are, like, 3rd generation, 4th generation drivers, like, you really realize that is how they learned their, like, their skills.
My son, it's all he talks about. He pretends to do pit stops every single day with anything he has around the house. Like, he drives my little simulator here, you know what I mean? And he can't reach the pedals, but I'll do them. And like, he's pretty good. I'm like, I think I gotta give him the opportunity to at least try it. But my wife's kind of like, I don't want him to race, Like, all right, fine, we'll see. We'll sneak it on the side and get him a go-kart,
Oh man, that's awesome. Well, so I have one more question. I don't want to take up too much of your time. And I have to get to an event here in a little bit. So Renner, congrats on launching it, and it looks awesome. Just wanted to hear your plug for it. I know we're not on a junket, but
Yeah. No, yeah, I'm happy you brought it up. It's it's coming out in theaters February 7th, so the timing is actually pretty cool. Probably one of the most intense roles. No, definitely the most intense role I've ever played. I've done a few dramas now, and I really enjoy them, but this one is on a whole nother level. I'm not the type of actor that is a method actor and has to really get into the role. I've always, I've kind of just show up. I know the words and put me in the situation, tell me what to do, I'll do it type of thing. But that one was a really weird experience. When you see the movie, it'll be hard to understand what I mean by this, but it was really hard to differentiate the emotions I had from filming and what we were doing on camera and real life. It was really interesting, and I'm so happy with how it turned out. And I'm never happy with my performance, if that makes sense. I always think oh shoot, I could have done that better. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's one that I watched and I went, I don't want to talk about myself, pretty happy with how that turned out.
You're proud of it.
I'm proud of it. So I'm hoping people check it out. They'll see me in a whole new light, that's for sure. And as an actor, that's exciting. So yeah, I'm thrilled for everyone to see it. I hope it has tons of success and yeah.
That's awesome. That's awesome. I had to have you plug it. I'm sure you worked obviously you worked really hard on it, and
we filmed it in North Carolina. Same thing. People go, "Oh, are you still acting?" And I kind of say no, because it's not something that I'm actively pursuing, if that makes sense. My focus is the racing. But every once in a while, a project comes along and you read the script, you're like, "Ooh, that's pretty cool." And when I was filming ARCA, when I was doing ARCA, I did the Charlotte race, went from Charlotte, left right after the race, drove. We filmed it in a town called Spring Hope, North Carolina. And I went there, started filming the next day. And the day we finished, I flew to Berlin to race. You know what I mean? It just happened to work right in that 3-week break that we had, and we knocked it out. And it was a really, really cool experience. So I'm excited. We're actually, nobody knows this either, we're going to have a Renner paint scheme on the truck for the test next week at Rockingham.
Oh, that's awesome.
Josh, the team owner, called. He's like, "Hey, what do you want to put on the truck for the test?" And I was like, "Nothing. We don't need it could just be a test truck." And I'm like, "Wait, I'm getting
the movie."
Netflix has contacted me to promote other people's movies. My movie up on there. So we're gonna have Renner on the truck for the test. I just figured it'd be cool to get to talk about, and hopefully people see it.
Oh, that is awesome, man. Well, dude, it is so great to talk more in depth than what we could talk about in our 3-minute hot lap.
I'm glad I didn't crash with you in the car, and you're here to have this interview.
I screamed my head off like a little baby, but it was in the best possible way.
It was awesome.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. Best of luck to you on the season here, Frankie.
Thanks.
And we'll be following, we'll be rooting, and looking forward to everything, man.
For sure. Appreciate you. Thanks so much. I'll
cool.
talk to you soon.
See ya.